Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So thank you so much to the organizers and to the Sangat here for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to the next 4 days of learning with you and trying to connect to Guru Sahib Ji and get closer to Gurmat with all of you. So before we begin, I just want to say a few words. We're going to be talking today about sort of the creation of the Khalsa and what the purpose of the Khalsa Panth is. We're not going to be looking so much at Vaisakhi 1699, so we're not going to be going into that much about the Amrit Sanjat. There's a lot of amazing, beautiful metaphor and imagery there that we could explore. You know, the Panch Banis that Guru Gobind Singh Ji used, the Patase, the water, the Kunda, all of those things, and that could be a whole other topic maybe for a future time, about what all those things maybe represent. But today we're going to be looking more at the origins of the Khalsa in the earlier Guru time period up to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and then why Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa. Secondly, in these presentations, because of the nature of them, we have to use a lot of images. They end up being images of the Gurus. And I want us all to be aware that these paintings were all done, even the old ones were done many years after the Guru Sahibs left this earth. And they are not the images of the Guru. We should remember that the only real image of the Guru is Gur Shabad, right? So we should always be aware not to be confused by these images and be cognizant of the fact that these images are a teaching tool, but they're not what the Gurus look like. So I think we have a few more guys coming. Maybe we could wait a second. Everyone look at them when they walk in. Point.
Punjabi down there, boys.
Good job, good job. On time.
What? Okay, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So what we're going to start off with is we are going to go through the reasons that we usually hear either in Gurdwara from old histories, or when we go to university a lot of times we take classes on Sikhi and what Western scholars say, or also what we may hear in India about why Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa. We're going to be looking at why those reasons might not be correct. And after that, what we're going to do is we are going to look at what Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, what Guru Granth Sahib Ji says, and what the earliest sources of Sikh history say about the creation of the Khalsa. So when we present, we should always be trying to present not our opinion, but trying to present or trying to understand what Guruji is trying to say. So everything should try to be grounded in Gurbani and Sikh history and Red when we talk. Closer? Is that better? Okay. I need one of those headphones. So one of the most common views that we hear from a lot of people is that, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, is that when Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji was Shaheed in Delhi in 1676, I believe, that Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji heard that nobody in the Sangat came forward in Delhi. And Guruji then wanted to create the Khalsa so that Sikhs could not hide, and we were always visible. So who here has heard that story before? So we're going to look at whether that makes sense from a Sikh historical perspective. So first of all, on the right here, we have him carrying Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's cease all the way to Anandpur Sahib, which was a very dangerous journey. Now on the right, who here has been to Delhi? Have you guys had the opportunity to do darshan at Rakabganj Gurdwara? So who here can tell me what happened at Rakabganj? If no one of you people who went to Delhi, Bihanji?
Is the cease?
No. It was where Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji's body was cremated, where the sanskar was done of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's body. And it was a mansion of a very wealthy Sikh named by Lakisha. So after Guru Tegh Bahadur Shahidi, the Sikhs of Delhi went back to their homes, went to their Dharmsala, and they came up with a plan. We hear the narrative that they were scared and they didn't know what to do, but quite opposite, they were very brave, incredibly brave. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's body and head, and the bodies of Bhai Dayala, Bhai Satidas and Bhai Matidas were left in the street. And they were left in the street on purpose by the Mughal government as a warning to people about what happens if you're sick and what happens if you defy the Mughal government. And it was well armed. So the Sikhs needed a way to try to get Guruji's body and head out of Chandni Chowk. Their number one goal was that we have to give proper respect to Guruji and do a proper funeral for Guru Sahib. So Bhai Lakhi Shah was a very wealthy merchant and he had a big caravan coming to Delhi, and he decided, we'll use my caravan, and even now today if you go to Siskanj Sahib Gurdwara where Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was Shaheed, you know it's a very busy road, and back then it was a very busy road as well. So he said, I'll bring my caravan through there, and when the caravan comes, in the, caravan is like a whole bunch of carts pulled by horses, in the sort of chaos that happens, we will take Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's body away. And then they asked for a Sikh to volunteer to take Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's head to Anandpur Sahib, so that the Sangat there and Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji there could pay their final respects to Guruji. Bhai Jeta volunteered, and Guruji and Bhai Jeta and Bhai Lakhi Shah and his son, they went there and they, in a sort of commando operation, took away Guruji's body and head. It's incredibly brave. So instead of being fearful or scared, they actually put their lives on the line just to do sanskar of Guru Sahib Ji's body and head. Moreover, if you go to Aurangzeb's own biographical accounts, there's 2 instances of Sikhs who tried to assassinate Aurangzeb, Delhi Sikhs, after the execution of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji. They weren't successful though. So even the Sikhs in Delhi, who were living in the heart of the empire, were not afraid. They wanted to get justice for what had been done to Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji. But moreover, we have had a visible identity from our beginning. I mean, all of us here know that of course the Sikhs of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji kept their gaze, right? And we've had a Kirpan since the time of Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji. And in fact, what I have here on the left here is a picture of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji bowing down to Bhai Lehna, who has just become Guru Angad Sahib Ji. And behind him is Bhai Buddha Ji, who later on, of course, we call Baba Buddha Ji. And what's the main part of the ceremony of when a new Guru is made is when they tie the star on the new Guru, sorry. So Bhai Buddha Ji for the first for Guru Angad Sahib Ji to Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji, Baba Buddha Ji was the one who had that seva of tying the star on the next Guru. So a visible identity, having the star, having gaze, and then later on having Kirpan, was a part of Sikhi from its very inception, from the beginning. It's not like the Sikhs could have hidden even before the Khalsa was made. We were always visibly unique. So there's another view, and this is very common as well, and who here has heard this, that Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa and he turned doves into hawks, right? Chiriyanubad, right? Have you guys heard that expression?
Yeah.
So we have this idea that Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa Panth as a fighting force to fight the enemy. But there's a couple of issues wrong with it. By the way, this is a cool old painting. That's Mata Pakwar on the right, top right there. I mean, it's not contemporary, but it's still an interesting painting. And if you notice, there's other women also, because Mata Pakwar wasn't by herself with a Jali Mukte, there were other women from the village that traveled with her to fight, which sometimes we forget when we tell the story. So, before Guru Gobind Singh Ji, we had almost 100 years of Sikhs being warriors. Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji had fought 5 battles and won all 5 battles. So it's not like Sikhi started this warrior tradition at Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji. And in fact, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji himself, contrary to how we usually visualize him today, was fully Shastratari all the time. So I mean, these old images of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, they look very different than how we imagine him today. But he looks a lot like how we imagine Guru Gobind Singh Ji, right? And the point is that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji himself, who here, and I know I said this at the winter camp, so it's a little bit of a giveaway, but we'll only touch on it briefly. What was Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's name before he became Tegh Bahadur? Does anyone remember? Tyagmal, Baba Tyagmal. So he was given the title of Tegh Bahadur from his father, Guru Hargobind Sahib, after the battle of Kartarpur, when he was 14 years old. And he fought so bravely that he cut arrows in half as they flew through the air with his tega, with his big sword. So even Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was a powerful warrior, perhaps one of the greatest sword fighters in Sikh history. So we've had a warrior tradition. So creating the Khalsa was not to make us into warriors. Sikhs have been warriors from much earlier on. In fact, Guru Gobind Singh Ji fought his first battle when he was 17 years old, the Battle of Pangani. And it was after the victory at this battle that Baba Ajit Singh was named, and that's why he was named Ajit, or one who cannot be beat, because Guruji had, and the Khalsa, the Sikh Panth had been victorious at Pangani. So here you can see Guruji on the hill shooting his arrow. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji, in fact, fought a majority of his battles before the Khalsa was made, not after. So we've kind of got a skewed vision. Now, if Guruji wanted to create the Khalsa to fight battles, then he would have done it a lot earlier in his Gurgati. He would have done it much earlier before he became, before the Khalsa was made, which he did when he was in his late 30s. So when you go to school in university, and if you take a Sikh religion course or a world religion course, a lot of times they kind of explain Sikhi in this pretty skewed way. And one of the big things that they say is that Sikhi was a peaceful religion until either Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji came or Guru Gobind Singh Ji transformed us into a warrior religion, right? So who here has heard that before? Yeah. So it's a pretty common myth that we hear. We're not going to go into it completely, but we can see that the idea of fighting against social, economic, political oppression starts from the earliest gurus. So how old was Guru Nanak Sahib Ji when he rejected the Janot? Does anyone know when he didn't wear that tagga? Anyone know how old he was?
9 years.
9 years old. So I want you to imagine the Janot ceremony was a big deal. It's like, for the family, it's like a marriage event. You invite all of your cousins, all of your grandparents, the whole village comes out, everyone is there, all of Guru Sahib Ji's relatives are around, his family's put on a big feast. Guruji is a 9-year-old child, and in that moment where they're about to put the Janot on him, Guruji rejects it. So that is an act of incredible courage and bravery. Which one of us would have the courage to stand up to our family, our culture, our society, our religion at 9 years old? And be able to reject it so eloquently, right? We read in Asadiva every morning what Guru Sahib Ji said, or at least we'll listen to Asadiva for the next week. Is it mandatory? No? Okay. Well, you can listen to it. And on the right here, now, does anyone know what happens if you go to Mecca today and you're not a Muslim? Anybody know what the punishment is? So even today, if you go to Mecca, and you're a non-Muslim, does anyone know what the punishment is from the Saudi Arabian government? Any guesses?
Beheaded.
You're beheaded, yeah. Okay? So the punishment is being beheaded. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji went to Mecca 500 years ago, or 450 odd years ago, and he went, and now who here has close friends who are religious Muslims? Anybody have friends? So if you go into their homes, you will notice, and you can ask them, that their beds are oriented with their heads always to Mecca. So even if they're not in Arabia, regardless of where they are in the world, they will make sure that their feet are not pointing towards Mecca. And Guru Nanak Sahib Ji goes to Mecca when Hajj is happening, when there's thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of Muslims there, and he purposely sleeps with his feet towards Mecca, right? So this is someone who is a revolutionary, who's pushing boundaries, who's making people question their beliefs, who is trying to cause dialogue and discussion in this really revolutionary manner. I mean, you can imagine, people's response. There was a high likelihood that Guruji could have been killed in that situation. But he wanted so much to teach the lesson that Akal Purkh Vaheguru is Ik Oankar and lives everywhere equally, right? That's what Guru Sahib Ji's message was. And what we see in this little chart here is that each of the 10 Gurus, I've sort of listed off different political actions that each of the Gurus have done. Now, you do not get executed, you do not get thrown in jail for teaching religion. That doesn't happen. So the Chinese government is not mad with the Dalai Lama because he is Buddhist. There's lots of Buddhists in China. They're mad with him because he wants autonomy or independence for Tibet. It's a political situation. So people do not get killed or tortured or thrown in jail because they are religious figures. They get thrown in jail because they are political figures. And we can see from Guru Nanak Sahib Ji all the way to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, each of the gurus has directly challenged not some low official like a mayor or the governor. They have challenged the very emperors of India at the time. India was the richest country in the world at that time in the 1600s. So the emperor of India was one of the world's most powerful people. And the gurus are directly challenging them. Each guru in turn. Which is a message to us that even regardless of how powerful, when you see something wrong, you have an obligation to stand up. You cannot be silent in that situation. So who here knows how many Guru Sahibs went to jail? Let's hear a guess. Does anyone know? So, oops. So we know Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji went to jail, right? So that's one. So how many altogether? Somebody throw out a number. 4, yes. Almost half of our gurus were spent time in jail. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji spoke out against Babur's war crimes and was thrown in jail. Guru Arjan Sahib Ji refused to bow down to Jahangir's demands and pay the tax that he was ordered to pay, and he was executed. Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji was also sent to jail. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji stood up against Aurangzeb's policies of trying to mass convert the Hindus, and he was jailed and executed. So we have in our tradition 2 Guru Sahibs who were executed and 4 Guru Sahibs who were political prisoners. It's a pretty incredible tradition. So the idea that Khalsa was made to make us into warriors is false. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji was a warrior from the very beginning. From the, when he went to school, he challenged his teachers, right? So every story of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, he's challenging power and authority, and he's going against the social, cultural norms. So who here is born in India or spent time raised in India? Gone to school there. So it might be more common for you, less so for other people, but especially in India, and especially when there's a war with Pakistan, you'll hear that Guru Gobind Singh is a great patriot. And he's a patriot whose job it was to defend Mother India against Muslim invaders. That's how Guru Gobind Singh Ji is shown in propaganda and posters and in stories. That's how they demonstrate it. And I wanted to use this painting because it also really bothered me. Because you got this light here coming down that Guruji is getting super ray powers from the sun or something, right? And we do this a lot in our paintings, don't we? Where the Gurus are looking up. But what does Bani tell us about where Vaheguru is? Within ourselves and everywhere, right? So we have fallen so much into the social and cultural norms of other religions that even the way we show our Gurus is not Sikhi-oriented. We've gone away from the Sikh perspective, right? So Guru Gobind Singh Ji was far from an enemy of Muslims. He had very close friends who were Muslims. We have Shahid Pir Buddhu Shah, whose 3 sons were killed fighting for Guru Gobind Singh Ji at Phangani, and who then later on was executed by the Mughal government for having supported Guruji. Guruji was helped after he left the jungle after Chumkor Sahib, and he was assisted by Ghani Khan and Nabi Khan, who were 2 Pathans. So Guruji had close relationship. We know, of course, Guru Arjan Sahib Ji, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji were good friends with Sai Mia Mia, right? Now, out of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's battles, and this is something that a lot of us don't realize, because we kind of always think that the bad guy is Aurangzeb, right? But in fact, out of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, I think he fought 22 or 23 battles. Almost 18 or 19 of them were fought with Hindus, against Hindu hill rajas. So the point is not whether they're Hindu or Muslim. The point is that whoever the government is, if they're being oppressive, the Guru is going to fight against them. And it doesn't matter if someone is Muslim or Hindu, if they believe in one Vaheguru, and they believe that the Jyot of Vaheguru exists within all people, as many Sufis do, then the Gurus would have relationships and have friendships with them, right? So that's what matters. You don't judge people by their religion, you judge people by their thoughts and actions. So this has become a more common thing, and I added this in because I've been getting a lot of questions, to be honest, because though this is a small group, they have a pretty big web presence these days with fancy looking websites. And I've heard from a few people now that we've been told that Amrit is only for men to be warriors. And the Sikh Panth has different groups within it. And we're just going to quickly discount that because these things are so easily disprovable that we can really right away, with a basic understanding of Sikh history and Gurmat, show how ridiculous they are. So there's this idea that Guruji created Nahang Singhs to be warriors, Udasis to do prachar, Nirmale to do scholarly work, and Seva Panthis to do seva. What is the first word in Guru Granth Sahib Ji? Ek Oankar. In every situation, Sikhi is about unity. Sikhi is about bringing people together. Sikhi is about creating oneness. Guruji didn't tell some Sikhs to go do seva, some Sikhs to do kirtan, some Sikhs to do Bhakt, and some Sikhs to do to be warriors, right? Guruji told Bhai Bidhi Chand, who was a great warrior, to go do prachar. Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji did. And he sent Bhai Gurdas Ji, who was a great scholar, to go buy horses and do a work of a warrior. So he was challenging us. It's also our fault because of how we view Sikh history. So for example, Baba Deep Singh, a lot of us have this image of him as a great warrior. But does anybody know how Baba Deep Singh became famous in the Sikh Panth? How he started off? No, also pehle. When he was a teenager, he used to do kirtan at Anandpur Sahib with his mother. And he did kirtan so beautifully, that's how he became famous within the Panth. So a warrior is not someone who just fights and has no other skills and is not able to do prachar or be a scholar. You know, Baba Deep Singh is a great example of this. He's an amazing Sikh scholar. He did prachar and he did incredible amount of seva in his life as well, right? So this idea of splitting up the Panth, everything is about oneness. And if we look at Bhai Nandlalji's Tamkhanama, which Guruji dictated to Bhai Nandlalji about the rules of how a Khalsa should live, Guruji says, Char varn ek varn karaun, vahe Guru ka jap japao. So what's the purpose of Khalsa? The purpose of the Khalsa is to transform all four castes into one. We see this in Bani all the time. Guruji says from the Brahmins, you should learn Gyan and incorporate that into yourself. From the Kshatriya, you should be a warrior. From the Vaishnavas, you should learn hard work. From the Shudras, you should learn humility and seva. And the point is to bring everything into one person, not create divisions among humanity. So the idea that the Panth should be divided is ridiculous. Because the whole point of Sikhi is to create unity everywhere, right? And to recognize the Galpur Vaheguru everywhere. And that's, of course, what the job of the Khalsa is. We'll get to that later. So next we're going to be looking at the Khalsa Panth. I see everyone's a little tired after lunch. I know you guys had early morning, so why doesn't everyone stand up for a second? I didn't say stand up and talk. Okay, that should be good. So, I'm going to tell you a little secret. The reason why I chose this painting was because Guruji has a really cute dog here. Okay? And I've got a really cute dog. So those of you who want dogs, you tell your parents, Guru Gobind Singh Ji had dogs, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji had dogs. Okay? Sorry? Is that what they say to you? Yeah? Okay. That's true too. So, this is again from those of us who have been to university. How was Sikhi created? So, usually when Sikhi is taught in schools or universities, they make it sound like an intellectual exercise. Like Guru Nanak Sahib sat there and said, oh, you know, there's problems, there's Muslims and Hindus, I'm going to take their ideas and stick them together and make a new religion. You know, there's people who did that. Akbar did that, in fact. He tried to create a new religion. And guess what? There's nobody following it anymore, right? On the other hand, people who do reform. So a very famous reformer who lived around the time of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is Martin Luther. Anyone heard of Martin Luther? Yeah. Not Martin Luther King, by the way, but Martin Luther. So Martin Luther was a former Catholic monk who criticized how corrupt the Catholic Church was. He was in Germany, and he created the Protestant movement. So Anglicans, Calvinists, Lutherans, most of the Christian Baptists, a lot of Christians here in North America who aren't Catholics are usually Protestants, right? But Guru Nanak Sahib Ji isn't sitting there. This is not intellectual exercise. Can you see Vaheguru? Can you touch Vaheguru? Can you taste Vaheguru? No. Vaheguru is something that you experience, right? Sikhi is an experiential religion, not a phenomenal religion. You don't touch it. You don't explain it. What is Mohammed? Mohammed is all about explaining that you can't explain Vaheguru, right? That Vaheguru is beyond limits, beyond understanding. Vaheguru is something that you experience by developing love for Vaheguru. And love is not something that can be explained, right? So Sikhi is actually based on something very personal. It's based on the personal connection that one individual had with the Kalpurk Vaheguru, a very special connection. And that special connection that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had is at the heart of Sikhi. So the details of the story aren't important, but I'm sure many of us have heard Guru Nanak Sahib Ji when he was living in Sultanpur. After he got married and had 2 children, he started a small sangat there, and he would do a shnan at Amrit Villa in the Vain Nadi. He went in and he disappeared, and it doesn't matter if he disappeared for 3 days or for a few hours, that's not the point, right? The point is that he had there a transformative experience, where he had a direct connection with Vaheguru. And as much as we talk about that, that's a very unique and amazing thing. And that is why we follow our Guru. We follow our Guru because we want to become closer to Vaheguru. You get closer to Vaheguru by going to someone who has had that connection with Vaheguru, right? You don't go to someone who doesn't have it. So we know that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had the connection. Of course, when he left the river, what was the first thing he said? Not go Hindu? Not Muslim. So again, what is Guruji talking about? Unity, right? Oneness. Stop dividing people into different categories, right? Like spreadsheets do. It's an inside joke, just for me and Devon. And Tarun, I guess, too. Yeah, he's laughing too. So, we're not going to go through the whole thing, don't worry. But those of us who can, and I can't, because I used Dr. Ganga Singh's Punjabi translation to come up with English translation, because I can't read Farsi, I'm sorry. But you know, if you ever want to interested in languages, really try to read by Nandalji's Bani, just as we should try to read by Gurdas's Bani as well. It really helps explain Sikhi and the Gurus in a level that is really unimaginable. A lot better than reading all these other scholarly books, because these people, of course, have been given a special gift from Guru Sahib. They've been given kirpa, and we consider their Bani to be something that can be sung in Gurdwaras, and that we can do Bhattav and so on and so forth. Anyways, we know that Vaheguru lives within us, right? But at the same time, this experience that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had with the Kalpurk Vaheguru is something that is so hard to explain, as I said, that Sikh history has sort of put it into literal terms so that we can try to visualize it. And I want us to, I'm going to tell you how it's talked about in the Jansakhis, because it's actually very interesting. And you'll see the parallels of why I've included it today. So in the Jansakhis, it says Guru Nanak Sahib Ji goes into the Darbar of Akalpurk. And on the Takat is sitting Akalpurk Sahib Vaheguru. So again, remember, this is all a metaphor. This is all internally happening within Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, but this is how it's being explained to us so that we can visualize it, right? And Guruji goes in front of Akalpurk Vaheguru, and Akalpurk Vaheguru Sahib ties on Guru Nanak Sahib Ji the star. And he then gives him a bata of Amrit to drink from. And then he gives him Vaheguru Mantra. And Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is then given a special responsibility, and this is a conversation that Bhai Nandal in Ganjnama, which is, Ganjnama is a Bani of Bhai Nandalji's, where he goes through all the 10 Gurus. So you guys have all heard, I'm sure, Badshah Darvesh Guru Gobind Singh, right? That comes from Ganjnama, on the Guru Gobind Singh chapter. So there's 10 chapters, 11 chapters, there's a beginning part about Vaheguru. So look at the terms that Vaheguru is using. I reside within you, and there is none beside me. I am sovereign and I am just. Show the world how to connect with me, and all are made sacred by aspiring to my qualities. So this is really important. What is the goal of a Sikh life? Is it to get mukti? Is it to go to heaven? The goal of a Sikh life is to recognize Vaheguru and become more Vaheguru-like, to develop the qualities of Vaheguru. That's the goal. So all of us have sacredness within us. What Vaheguru is saying here to Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is that everyone can be sacred once they realize that they have my qualities within them and they aspire to those qualities. Once you become Vaigur-like, then why would you want to cut your hair, for example? Because you know that Vaigur is living within you. You would want to protect every dome of your body, right? The same way, if you have Vaigur within you and you realize that, you would want to crown yourself because you have divine sovereignty within you. You'd want to wear the star. So all these things flow naturally from that personal internal connection that you have. There's some really interesting things here. We won't go through all of it. But look at the last line. Go and straighten their paths so that they can be transformed by my divinity. So Guru said, there's these people out there who claim to be religious and they're nothing more than cheap magicians. And they pretend like they're going to raise people up from the dead, but all they actually do is kill people. And they kill people because they waste their lives, right? Or sometimes literally they kill people, right? And like you're saying to Guru Nanak Sahib, your job is to go and show people the straight and true path. So Guru Nanak Sahib has a very special job. And this is where that question sometimes people ask, who made Guru Nanak Sahib Ji Guru? Well, Akal Purkh made Guru Nanak Sahib Ji Guru. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji's Guru is Vaigur, right? So this is an old fresco at Babartal. It's now been destroyed, unfortunately, by the SGPC. But regardless, this is Guru Nanak Sahib Ji. There's Bhai Burdaji after he's finished tying the dastar on Guru Angad Sahib Ji. And of course, this Shabad is from Bhai Satam Bhavan's var in Ramkali, right? So, Bhai Manveer Singh, can you read it out loud for us?
Nanak Raj Raya Sat Kod Satani Nivda, Nanak Aryan Sat Ser Spasifni Amrit Vivda, Matgur Atam Vedvi, Kharg Jor Parakwe Jida.
So look at the terms that Bhai Bhavan is using in this Bani. Nanak Raj Chalaya. What's Raj?
Rule.
Right? It's like rule, sovereignty, right? Kingdom. You guys know what a knee is, right? When you put a foundation stone. So Guru Nanak Sahib Ji has laid the foundation stone. These are all very political, very loaded terms that Guru, as a Bhai Bhavan is using in Bani. What is on top of Bhai Lena? Lene Tarion Chat Sid. What's above his Sid? Chat. What's a Chat? Chatta, right? Jani Sahib, right? So you don't put Janis on top of spiritual people, by the way. In India at the time, Hindu Babas would not have Janis on top of them. That's what kings have. That's what queens have on top of them. Matgur Atam Devdi Kharag. Now what's a Kharag or a Kharag? It's a khanda, it's a kirpan, right? It's a talwar. So even the idea of a kirpan in Sikhi comes from the very beginning. How does Guru Nanak Sahib Ji transform Bhai Lena with a kharag? What is a kharag? What do we call this? Kirpan, right? Where does that come from? What's the root of it? You can tell me. From kirpa, something that gives grace. So we need to stop thinking about things in Western terms. These are not weapons to kill people. These are weapons to give life to people, to save people, right? So this kharag, Bhai Bhavan is saying, it actually gives you life, jide, right? It's a life-giving thing, just like a kirpan is something that gives you life. It's an amazing way of looking at it, right? And of course, we'll see echoes of that. We won't go through this right now, but essentially we can see how each Guru Sahib has step-by-step developed the Sikh Panth, but we're on limited time. So instead I want to go to Khalsa 1699. This is another, if those of you are interested in art and stuff, this is from Babartal. It's about one of the doors. And it's a pretty interesting image. It's a Char Sahib getting Amrit. And there are the Panch Pyare. And it's really cute to see Baba Fateh Singh there. He looks like Yoda. Right? He's got like a cane and everything or something. It's very cute. So listen to what Professor Purna Singh says 100 years ago. In the constitution of the Khalsa Commonwealth, which is just a fancy way of saying the Khalsa Panth, the greatest act of genius of Guru Gobind Singh was when he transferred the divine sovereignty vested in him to the God-inspired people of Khalsa. What does Guru Gobind Singh do? He takes that sovereignty that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had been given from Akal Purkh. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji transferred that to Guru Angad Sahib Ji, who transferred it to Guru Amar Das. And that is what was transferred to the Khalsa one in 1699. Now, this is from a book by a female scholar. Now, I don't agree with everything she writes, but she has a very interesting perspective. One of the few female Sikh scholars out there today, Nikki Ganinder Kaur. And I really like how she sometimes interprets things from a different perspective than what we're used to. So Guru Nanak's disciple Lena is made Angad, literally a limb of his own body. So we all know this, right? What does the word Ang mean? It means a limb, right? So Guru Nanak Sahib Ji wanted it to be crystal clear in the minds of the Sangat in the world that this person is no different than me. They are so much a part of me that it's like they're made for my body, Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is saying. They're my Ang, right? Now what does Guru Gobind Singh Ji say? Khalsa milo, Rup hai khas Khalsa meho. Khalsa, what's next? Is that right? And after? Jan ki Jan, right? So Guruji is saying that Khalsa is my everything, is my life, right? Just as Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is saying that you, Guru Angad Sahib Ji, are my body and life. You are from me. The historical succession from Nanak to Angad, etched in the 10th Sikh Guru's memory, was eventually reproduced by him, and he made the Khalsa a limb of himself on Vaisakhi 1699. So let's step back a little bit now from 1699 again. The idea of the Sangat having sovereignty is something that is very early on in Sikh history. In fact, when Guru Arjan Sahib Ji went to Lahore to give Shahidi, he went with Panch Pyare, which is the first instance of Panch Pyare in Sikh history. 5 Sikhs went with him, by Bidhi Chand, Baba Burda Pai Gurdas, and 2 other Sikhs whose names I can't remember right now, traveled with Guruji to see him off before he was arrested to be tortured. So this is a line from Pai Gurdas Ji's Vara, Ik Sikh, Doi Sad Sang, Panji Parmesar. A beautiful idea. 1 is a Sikh, 2 Sikhs is all you need for a Sad Sangha. This is also, for those of you who are a little bit older, a really amazing way of looking at marriage. And Pai Gurdas Ji emphasizes Gusti Jeevan quite a lot. So within our homes, we have the potential to create satsangat with our spouses, with our partners, which is a beautiful idea, right? This idea that, whereas in most other traditions, marriage is something that's negative, marriage is something that takes you away from religion, women are seen as impure or dirty or something that distract you from spiritual pursuits. Guru Sahib Pai Gurdas Ji is saying that marriage, in fact, is a place where we can develop a stronger connection with Vaishnav. And then Panji, not even Guru, Pai Gurdas Ji is saying that 5 Sikhs are like a Kalpurk Vaishnav themselves. So the challenge to you guys here is, when there's 5 of you around, do you feel like you have the power of Vaishnav, right? How do you act? How do you behave? How do you live your life? Are you developing yourself? Are you living a life where you can say the 5 of us together represent a Kalpurk Vaishnav, right? So there's an old saying from the time of Guru Amar Das Ji, Sangat Iki Visve, Guru Vi Visve. So in old land in Punjab, they would cut up the land into 20 parts, and 20 parts was considered a whole. Okay, so when you say Vi Visve, it means like it's a whole, it's 100%. So the Guru is perfect, the Guru is 100%, but the Sangat is actually more than the Guru. And we see this happen a few times in Sikh history. When Chandu wanted to marry his daughter to Baba Hargobind, who became Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji, right? The Sangat in Delhi sent a letter to Guru Arjan Sahib Ji saying, please don't do this, we know what type of guy Chandu is. So the Sangat was able to give advice to the Guru. Now of course, same question, what type of Sangat were they? That they would feel that they had the right to give the Guru advice, right? So how were their lives? So let's take a look now at the etymology of the word Khalsa. So we usually hear that Khalsa means pure, right? Who here has heard that? So most of us, I think, have heard that Khalsa means pure. But there's another root of the word Khalsa, which is from Persian. And remember that, you know, like in Europe and even in Canada today, anyone know what the motto of Canada is? Admare, aske admare, from sea to sea, okay? Or in America, it's e pluribus unum, from many one. So in all these countries, they use Latin because Latin was considered the language of kings. In South Asia, in Central Asia, in the Middle East, they used Persian. Persian was the language of kings. So a lot of Sikhi political terms are usually Persian because the gurus were showing that we are sovereign, right? That's the whole idea. So Khalsa in Persian means a land that's directly ruled by the government. So what do we call provincial parks or federal parks in Canada? We call them Crown land, right? And what do we call like the Royal Canadian Mint or the Canada Post? We call them Crown corporations. So usually when governments in the olden days, like let's say in England, the king would have all these dukes and nobility below him, right? But below the dukes and nobility, you know, they would give money to the king, but there's some land that the king owned directly. That land in Persian countries was called Khalsa. The land that was directly answerable only to the king. So let's look at the second meaning of the word Khalsa, pure, which comes up in Bani. I'm going to ask Bhai Singh again to please read it.
Manre saryo na ekta kaja tajyo na raghupat raja rahao paryo kar sada jab upar mahe likhe क्रम ज्ञानी कहो कबीर जन कहे खालसे प्रेम भगत जे जानी.
So, what is a Khalsa here according to Guru Granth Sahib Ji? A Khalsa is someone, it is very simple, someone who is prem, love, prem bhakti, right? That is the definition of a Khalsa here, according to Bhagat Kabir Ji.
Bole so nihal.
So, we had one job, ek aja, right? One job that we're not doing. And that one job is to praise Akal Purkh Vaheguru, who is referred to in which was what word? Raja. It's interesting, right? So Bhagat Kabir Ji's word there. So that's the first use of the word Khalsa. And the second use of the word Khalsa, and this is a hukam of Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji's to the Sangat in Patna Sahib. And if you read these old hukams of the Gurus, and many of them were destroyed in 1984 by the Indian Army, but we have copies of them in books like Dr. Ganda Singh's Hukamname. If you read them, Guru Hargobind Sahib and Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji refer to their Sikhs as Khalsa. They say, Patna ki Sangat meri Khalsa hai. Meaning that the Sangat at Patna is my Khalsa, they are answerable to me. They don't follow the Mughal government. They don't follow the Ramraye, Tir Maliye, Minne. They are fully connected to Vaheguru through the Guru. So Khalsa meant those Sikhs who were the Guru's Sikhs, who were loyal to the Guru. So these are the two meanings of the word Khalsa. And they come before 1699. So we don't need to read the whole quote, but we all know this idea. That 4 out of the 5 Panch Pyare were from low castes. So a lot of times we don't realize what the caste system really means, right? In the caste system, in Canada for example, we have this idea, though it's not always true, if you work hard, regardless of what your background is, you go to school, you can achieve anything, right? In America they call it the American dream, right? In India, if you're a low caste and you work hard, can you move your way up? Can your kids move their way up? Grandkids? This is a slave system that's lasted 5,000 years. It's lasted through invasions of the Greeks, Persians, Afghanis, British, and it's still there strong today. That's how long it's survived. So if you're a low caste Hindu, what's the only way of getting up the caste system? Anybody know? Rebirth. So you have to be very good. You have to follow your dharma, right? And your dharma means to follow your caste rules and do all the garbage work that the Brahmins are telling you to do. Treat them with respect. Let them abuse you and use you in any way. Can men marry up the caste system?
No.
Can women? Yes, they can. Because high caste men can choose any woman they want. What happens even today in India if a high caste woman tries to marry, falls in love with a low caste man? Do you guys know? There's stories that come out on the news sometimes. The whole village will gang rape the girl to purify her from the fact that she's been married to a low caste man, and they've killed the boy. This is what still happens in India, okay? So when we talk about the caste system, we don't realize how horrible it is. Now, who's at the very bottom of the caste system? Sorry? No, below them. Women. So, can a woman achieve mukti or any salvation in her life? Her only job is that through obeying her father and husband and being a very good woman, so much so that if her husband dies, what does she have to do? Kill herself, because her life is worthless without her husband, right? So what if she's a really good woman, what does she have the chance to be in her next life? What type of man? The lowest caste. And she has to work her way up. So it's a pretty brilliant system if you think about it. It's brilliant because anytime someone speaks up or goes against it, what do you tell them? You're not going to get a chance to move up. So it self-perpetuates, right? We can talk about the whole caste system for a long time. The horrors of it are pretty awful, right? But to imagine that the nucleus of the Khalsa Panth was created had in it 4 low caste people. Bhai Himmat Singh was a barber. Bhai Himmat Singh? No, Bhai Sahib Singh was a barber. And we have Bhagat Singh, who's also a barber in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So how many Sikhs hang out with barbers today? Not many, right? So those professions that are looked down upon as dirty, disgusting, or disrespected, this is where they're coming from. And this map is very interesting, isn't it? Look, north, east, south, west, right? So all cardinal directions. What is Guru Gobind Singh Ji? Because everything the Guru does is purpose, right? Guru is perfect, right? Guruji is showing us that the Khalsa Panth is something for the whole world. For everywhere. So nowadays we think of Punjabi and we think of Sikh right away, they go hand in hand. 4 to the 5 Panch Pyaare were not Punjabi. Guru Gobind Singh was born outside of Punjab, lived most of his life on the outskirts of Punjab, never went to the heart of Punjab, never went to Amritsar, and died in the south of India, right? So Guruji most likely spoke Punjabi with an accent. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji, how many banis did he write in Punjabi? Does anyone know? Chandi Diwar, that's it, yeah. So one bani. Is that right, Tulu?
One more.
What's the other one? Mitra Pyare no. Khyal Pache Dasam. Okay, so there's 2. Foiled again by the Dasam people. So there's 2 banis. So mostly Guruji didn't write in Punjabi either, right? So I just want to point out how pretty I made Panch Pyare's names look. After we do it. Now we don't need to go through this. I think a lot of you have done this before in other workshops and stuff. The idea that we develop from compassion to right actions to being courageous, faith in Vaheguru, and then we are sovereign, right? So the word Sahib is interesting. I want to touch on that for a second. You know, in Hindu terminology, a religious person, they use the word Siddhi, not Sahib. They say Siddhi. Like Siddhi this, Baba, Siddhi that, you know? Or Siddhi Devi, Siddhi Krishna, right? Siddhi means holy. Sahib is a word that is not used for religious figures historically. It is a word used for kings and queens. And Sikhi is such an amazing faith that we have made everything sovereign. So it's a Siddhi Sahib, right? It is Gurdwara Sahib, it's Nishan Sahib, right? Everything we have added Sahib to because we are showing that this is sovereign, not made by some person, but by Akal Purkh Vaheguru. So just briefly, I'll have someone else read this. Let me see. Maybe can a Benji volunteer to read it? Someone who's comfortable reading Bani? Benji, can you read it? You have to do it louder. So I mean, Panch here has a really deep meaning, and I recommend you read by Veer Singh or Professor Sahib Singh to understand what it means. And Panch, in a very brief meaning, means those who are chosen, those who have the Kirpa of Vaheguru, but its root is Panch, which is interesting. So nothing the Guru does is without meaning, right? And if we look at the root of the word If we look at this pori, what comes up later in this pori? Taul Taran Deaka, right? So in this very pori that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji is talking about, Panch, he talks about the fact that Dharam has to be developed after you have developed what? Daya, compassion. So Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they're one jot, right? They're working, everything is fitting together. This is a really beautiful idea. It doesn't matter what you've done in your life. It doesn't matter what's been done to you in your life. What traumas you suffered. When you were born into the Khalsa Panth, into the house of Nanak, everything is cut off. You are free. And I wanted to read this because we talk a lot about the birth of the Khalsa in this very male terms, Guruji standing there with a khanda, but she writes about it in this really beautiful way, this Nikki Ganinder Kaur. Together, most tenderly, they walked out hand in hand. And the oldest accounts talk about the Panch Pyare Guruji, Guruji leading them out, holding their hands in front of the Sangat at Vaisakhi. They had been given themselves to death and were born anew. The blood that flowed and soaked Guruji's sword was in fact procreative. So the khanda and the blood on the khanda was not something violent, because we know that the Panch Pyare were in fact born again. So it's the same idea that the khanda is what? It's giving life. Not taking away life, it's giving life to the Panch Pyare. It proved to be an essential part of the birthing process. And in this postpartum scene, Guru Gobind Singh comes across as a proud mother, bringing her offspring forward, affectionately showing them all. So just like a mother when she's had a baby wants to show it to everyone, Guruji is bringing out his beloved, and what's the word he used? Pyare, right? Which is a term that a mother uses for her children, right? Guruji is saying, look at these beautiful people that I've given birth to, that I've created. And he's showing them to the Sangha. It's an amazing way of looking at it. So, can someone tell me what the word nash means? Destroy. So Gyani Gyab Singh writes in the 1880s that Guru Gobind Singh Ji has destroyed 5 things when he created the Khalsa. By the way, this is the khanda that we believe was used in 1699. It is at Anandpur Sahib. So who here has been to Anandpur Sahib? Keskar Sahib? So you can do darshan of this khanda. And so this is a khanda that Guruji used to cut off the heads and to make the amrit, which is pretty amazing. Taram nash, karam nash, janam nash, sharam nash, and param nash. So, freedom from all your previous religious traditions. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian before, if you're Muslim, if you were a worshipper of Kali Ma, and you went for years to go to her, worshipper of Devi, and you went for years to go on pilgrimages there, like Bailena did, right? Or if you had no guru, like Baba Amar Das did, right? It doesn't matter what you are before you come to Sikhi, Karam Nash. Sometimes people ask, do Sikhs believe in Karam? And the real answer is, whether we believe in it or not doesn't matter, because Khalsa soy Karam ko sare. That's what Bhai Nandalji said. The Khalsa is one who burns their past Karam, destroys it. So when you are born in the Khalsa Panth, it doesn't matter, everything is starting fresh, right? Janam Nash. So, you know, you'll meet people whose like great-grandfather was some like famous guy, and they'll still be showing off about their family, will have pictures up in their house, but if their dad's a serial killer, they won't tell you about it, right? So we want to be proud, like it makes us special, but we're very ashamed. So this is the idea that you're free from your family origin. It doesn't matter if you were high, if you were some big famous guy, or if you weren't. This is a big problem with the Panth today. We give so much respect to the children of people that did amazing things. You know, the best example is the children of the Gurus, who many of them were not the greatest characters, right? So being the child of someone amazing does not make you an amazing person. Bhai Gurdasji says that the people talk about Kaljug like it's bad. He says, I say Kaljug is the best, because in Kaljug, only your actions impact you. So nothing from the past impacts you, you got to do yourself. And what you do impacts your life. That's what Bhai Gurdasji says. So Janam Nash also, of course, caste. We talked about how awful caste is. Sharam Nash is really interesting. You know, Bhai Lallo wasn't ashamed that he was poor. For him, it was a dignity in doing girth and being honest that gave him dignity. So it doesn't matter what your job is, it's how you do it. That's what matters in Sikh. It's whether you do it honestly, with grace, with love and compassion. That's what matters. And Param Nash, of course, Sikhs have solved this, right? Everyone washes their hair every day of the week, right? Nobody doesn't wash their hair on Wednesdays here? Or is it Thursday? What is it?
Thursday.
Tuesdays! I don't even know. So, Param Nash. How many people's families, for example, their mothers do the, what's it called, karva chauth, where they don't eat? So a lot of women in India will not eat a certain day of the week for their husbands. It's just a horrendous idea if you think about it, right? So, freedom from all of those things. This is what Guru Gobind Singh Ji has given us. And the most amazing thing is just like Guru Nanak Sahib Ji bowed before Bhai Lena at Kartarpur, what does Guru Gobind Singh Ji do? He bows before the Khalsa. So what I've been trying to get at here, in this part of the talk, is the idea that what happened in 1699 was like a Guru Gaddi ceremony for the Sikh Panth, for the Khalsa Panth. When the Guru makes the next Guru, they would tie the star on them. What were we given in 1699? We were given the star. The star is a symbol of royalty, of sovereignty. We were given a kirpan. After Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji, each Guru gave a kirpan to the next Guru. And for the next 9 years, from 1699 to 1708, there's 3 instances where Guru Sahib Ji had to listen to the hukam of the Panj, who represented the Khalsa Panth. There was a time when Guruji was marching with the Sikhs on the way back from a hunt, and he raised his deer to the shrine of a Muslim saint, which is contrary to Maryada. And 5 Sikhs right away said to him, what you're doing is wrong. And Guruji had to pay them ka. So again, look around yourselves and at yourself. Can 5 of you tell the Guruji that what they did was wrong? So Guruji, of course, is perfect. Guruji is not making mistakes. Not making mistakes. He is challenging the Sikhs to see, do they have within them the commitment to Maryada, right? To that they will even be able to criticize my behavior. So nowadays we make excuses for people all the time, right? Guruji didn't want people to make excuses for him. And of course, Guruji was asked by the Khalsa to leave Anandpur Sahib, even though he knew that the Bahari Raja and the Mughal government would break their promise and attack. And Guruji was ordered not to fight at Chamkaur Sahib and ordered to leave to go to the jungle. So 3 times, when Guruji was ordered to leave Chamkaur Sahib, the oldest histories tell us that Guruji was, the Panj talked to him and they called him Gobind Singh, not Guru Gobind Singh. So they were the Guru and they ordered him out. This is a pretty incredible idea. And Guruji didn't argue with him. He said right away, he just asked for one request. And does anyone know what the request was that he asked for when he left Chamkaur Sahib?
Announce it.
Sorry?
Announce it. Announce that he's leaving.
Announce that he's leaving, yeah. Sorry, I couldn't understand your accent. I thought you were saying answer, something else. Sorry, not to be mean. I was like, what is he saying? Yeah. So Guruji went out clapping. There's a gurdwara there. Does anyone know what it's called? Hanji? Tari Sahib, right? Where Guruji said, we want to make sure that nobody thinks that we're running away. Sikhs don't surrender, right? So this is the idea. Now, I might have talked about this before. If I have, I apologize to those of you who've heard it. But we all the time talk today about how Singh means lion and Kaur means princess, like it's some dainty thing, right? And the truth is this, is that Singh is a title that the Rajputs gave to their children, to their sons, as a royal title. But Kaur is a title that was even higher than Singh. It was the one given to the firstborn who was going to be the next king. So even though the root of the word Singh is lion in ancient Sanskrit, that's not how Guruji used it. Guruji was co-opting Rajput and Persian terms to instill in us a sense of freedom and sovereignty. And he gave us titles of Singh and Kaur. So we are all princes and princesses of the Guru, which is a beautiful idea. Nowadays we have this weird image of a princess, right? Or a prince. And I really like that song of the Khalsa, regardless of other things. That song of the Khalsa has this beautiful line in it. What is it? a princess isn't royal by her birth or blood inside, right? But if her family's home is an Anantapur side, it's that idea. The Banj Bihare. You know, nowadays, what do we value the most in a woman? What's one of the first things that's listed on the marriage websites? If she's fair-skinned, right? Is this right? Right? 4 out of the 5 Banj Bihare were dark-skinned. It's interesting to think about how we judge people based on skin color, how racist our community is, right? It is racism. It's a prejudice against South Indians because most of us are from North Indians who are from Aryan stock, right? So it's racism against the indigenous people of India. But the point is that the Banj Bihare themselves were dark-skinned. They weren't Punjabi. So the whole idea is that we are all princesses and princesses of the Guru because our father is a sovereign, Sache Badshah, Shehenshah, right? And this is especially powerful for women. So last year we had, or in December, we had Bibi Balkipur here, a very inspiring speaker, and all of us I think know her story. This is an amazing story and I think really shows someone who is challenging themselves as a Sikh to live a sovereign lifestyle, right? So that when we're made fun of, and you're made fun of on the internet by literally tens of thousands of people, her response is what? One of love and compassion. And the response back was incredible, wasn't it? Even the person who originally made fun of her apologized, right? How often does that happen on the internet? Right? Literally, how often does someone who makes fun of somebody's picture on the internet, the person who took the original picture, how often do they apologize? It's never happened before. So it's incredible. And there's this idea that's very unique in Sikhi, very unique. You know, Jewish women, after they have their period, have to take a bath with rainwater before they can sleep in their husband's bed. And so Orthodox Jewish women have to have a proper, tank on their roofs of their house where they can collect rainwater to purify themselves. And even in Punjabi culture from Hinduism, this idea that after women give birth, they're so dirty that they can't leave the house for how many days? 40 days, right? But in Sikhi, it's the only faith where there's no intermediary. So a woman can have a direct relationship with her Guru, not through her son or her husband or her father. And it doesn't matter whether she's widowed or married, whether she's single, whether she's on her period, whether she's given a birth to a child, whether she's pregnant, because a lot of cultures, pregnant women aren't allowed to leave the house, right? She is able to wear her kakars, which is a pretty amazing thing. We're the only faith where these gifts are equally given to both genders. So these are really revolutionary ideas. Even today, in today's world, they're revolutionary. So, how much time do we have left? When did we start? Maybe 20 minutes? Sure. Okay. Okay, why don't we stand up again? 15? Why don't we stand up again? I do I'm such a big Baba Jarnail Singh fanboy. I was just trying to jump on my house, stick his picture in every presentation. But I like this one especially because I like that, you know, there's a Bibi in here and he sings here, you know? It's a nice image. And plus the orange under the stars is awesome. It's pretty cool. Yeah. And also I can have an excuse for having a mess with the star, so. So, on the left here you have Khalsa, and on the right you have Mughal soldiers, by the way. So, there's a painting by a Mughal artist, a Muslim artist. We have a minute. I just want to point out something that's really cool and weird and interesting. There are 2 Sikhs who are picking up their heads. in this painting by a Muslim artist. So, make of that what you will. So Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji increased the Khalsa Panth and armed it. Because the Panth has a very specific purpose. And we talked about this in December for those of you who are here, that the Khalsa Panth has fought in the last 300 years 10 different revolutions, almost every 30 years. Be it the Gurdwara Reform Movement, be it the Missile Time, be it Tarmiyat Morcha and what came afterwards, Khalistan. We have had different struggles. And the goals of these struggles is a very good book by Jagjit Singh called Sikh Revolution. And I recommend you guys read it. It really gives an amazing perspective about how revolutionary Guru Nanak Sahib Ji's message is. He says that every Sikh revolution has 3 purposes. One is to create an equal society. 2 is to fight religious and political domination so that no one group is ruling over another group. And 3, to capture power for the lowest of the low, for those who are marginalized, those who are being abused. And how do we do this? We do this by taking our mind and connecting it to Shabad Guru, which will become the weapon of our mind. Working together as a Sangat, because as a Sangat, as a Panth, we're capable of a lot more than we're capable of by ourselves, right? And then using Shastra. So I don't need to tell you guys, you know, I think most of us know, and if you don't, we can have discussions throughout the week. The non-violence doesn't work. It works for very specific small goals, like Gurdwara Reform Movement to work, but you're not going to get independence from a country. You're not going to capture political power without using weapons. And you can see that in Syria, you can see that in Egypt, we can see living examples of it today. So in Egypt, where they thought that it worked, it didn't work, right? And the last year has been a demonstration that even though they thought they had a revolution, things didn't change for the people on the ground, right? So real change, you actually have to, people in power don't give up power easily. They never do. Why would they? They have all the power. So Guruji didn't come out, it meant to sound more eloquent, yes, sounds so weird. So moral, spiritual, cultural, and social transformation. Now, we don't need to go through this too much, but we've all heard that expression, I think now. Khalsa is either Bagi or Badshah, right? We're either fighting to be free or we are free. Those are the only 2 states of being a Sikh can be in. And as Jatin Singh Pangu says, "In Garib Sikhan ko deho Patshahi yaad kare Amri Gurbai," right? So I gave these poor Sikhs, and we were the lowest of the low, right? Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave us Patshahi. And we were able to do a lot with it, by the way. That's Lal Gilla, right? And Sardar Baghel Singh. So, how do you transform the world? How do you do this revolution? Now, these are not steps, and I want this to be clear because we make that mistake so much. We say, first, concentrate on yourself, then go do seva. So it's really contrary to Sikh practice. Everything goes hand in hand. You don't sit around while people are being killed and abused, staying at home doing Simran and Path. You're doing Path and Simran to develop yourself while you're going out and doing seva. Everything has to be a collective process, a holistic process, what I mean to say. Because again, what is Sikhi about? It's about unity. Everywhere, always, everything has to be oneness. You don't separate even within yourself. You don't create degrees of separation. But again, echoing almost exactly what Bhagat Kabir Ji was saying about the Khalsa in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, what is Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji saying in Savaiya? So, Badi, can you read the Shabad to us? Manvir Singh?
Jagat jog Japan Sbas Ek Banaman Nakana Ane Puran Prem Pradeep Saja Brak Gor Marij Mat Purana Mane Tirat Dan Daya Tat Sanjam Ek Banane Ek Peshane Puran Jot Jaga Kat Me Tab Kharas Taye Nakharas Jani.
So this is a beautiful idea. What is a Khalsa? Khalsa is someone who even by mistake doesn't believe in anybody else besides oneness. Right? A Khalsa is someone who has the light of a Kalpurk rising out of them. A perfect light. Only that person can be recognized as a Khalsa, who has a Puran Jot Jage Katme. Within their heart, this light is rising. This is the most authentic definition and purpose of the Khalsa. This is what Guru Gobind Singh Ji has given us. So we were warriors before Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa. We were politically active before Guru Gobind Singh Ji created the Khalsa. The Khalsa at its heart is us connecting to Vaheguru and getting that experience that Guru Nanak Sahib Ji got 500 years ago, in 1499. By the way, it was 1499 when Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had that experience, 200 years before the Khalsa was made. So interesting parallels, right? Second, the number one thing that happens when Sikhs get together is what? We start complaining about the Band. Or we start complaining about Punjab, right? The most depressing, useless conversations ever. So depressing. We just sit there, end of the night, we're like, okay, yeah, you know, like, yeah, just there's no point in doing it. We just get ourselves down, we talk about how bad Badal is, and then we're like, you know, that's it. The Khalsa is not about talking. The Khalsa is about doing. So why is the Panth in a bad situation? Because our homes are in bad situations. The Panth is made up of communities, right? The Panth is in a bad situation because our local communities are in a bad situation. Once we transform ourselves at a local grassroots level, then we start seeing changes. So Sikhs, like for example, Singh Sabaler, they didn't go around saying, oh, the whole Panth's a disaster, everything's falling apart, what should we do, what should we do? They said, no, let's make schools, let's publish books, let's write stuff, let's actually do things, concrete things. That is what changes the Panth. So, Khalsa soy, Panth ko mare, right? Khalsa is one who destroys the five within them. Khalsa soy, nirdan ko pale. How many of us do this today? How many of us are taking time or money to assist those who are the poorest in our communities? Making Langar Gurdwara does not help poor people. Okay? It helps people like me who need to eat less Langar, right? So, Khalsa soy dusht ko gadle. How many of us are confronting enemies? We love wearing turbans and nice strollers and the mallas. I'm talking about myself. This does not make me a warrior. There are enemies here. There are people who are oppressing people. In Canada, for example, there are whole networks of women who are brought over as sex slaves, for example. How many of us are helping organizations confront that? Providing money at least to them. To people who are literally in a state of slavery within our own countries, right? There are people who are here as migrant workers who don't have full rights. How many of us are confronting that inequality? Imagine if our parents, when they came to Canada, they weren't allowed to be citizens. They had to work on farms first as migrant workers. It wouldn't be much of a country today, would it, right? So we are not confronting social and political inequality today like Guru Nanak Sahib Ji did. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, forget the local ones, he was going to confront Baba. We're too scared to speak up against our local city councils, right? In Abbotsford, just recently, they dumped rotting chicken meat and garbage at a location in the city where homeless people were living because they wanted to get rid of them. Instead of providing homes for them, or a community center, or some type of program, mental health, they dumped garbage to get rid of them. So how many Sikhs in Abbotsford confronted that or spoke against it, right? So these are the things we need to challenge ourselves on. And of course, we need to be Shastatari, and that means not just these weapons, which are very important, and those traditions are important, but we need to be able to work with the weapons of the time. And I'd like to go back to Singh Sabaler again. These were people who saw, look, the British have a printing press. This is a great tool. They took it and they published the first Sikh novel, Sundari. They published the first Sikh newspaper, Khalsa Akhbar Lahore. They created, they used the tools of the enemy to propagate Sikhi. So, you know, internet or whatever it is, we can be using our tools better. We can be creating content, so on and so forth. There's different ways to fight battles, right? So we have Bhai here who's creating comic books, for example, right? Which is awesome, say about. He's going to be talking about that later in the week, I believe. Today. He'll be talking about today. And these are comics that I can show my kids, which are pretty amazing. Not like the comics that we grew up with, which were kind of weird sometimes. No, I'm talking about the Sikhi ones. They were published by, what were they called? Yeah. So we don't need to go over this, we're running out of time a little bit here. But I want us to talk about this. This is very important for us as a Panth today. Wherever Sikhi is about openness, Sikhi is about inclusiveness, Sikhi is about bringing people in and not creating barriers. Langar, open to all. Music used to be restricted, kirtan and rag, open to all. Everything is about breaking down boundaries. So where you see boundaries being created, where you see classes of people being created, that is not authentic Sikh. Sikhi is about welcoming people in. Otherwise there'd be no Sikhs today, right? If we were creating barriers between people, no one would want to join us. So, even Gurmukhi script, getting rid of gender discrimination, all of those other things. The Sikhi has the potential, even though we're a small faith, we have the potential to transform the world. Because our ideas are ideas that can build peace between different groups. Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji went to Assam. Does anyone know what he went and did in Assam? It's a little known facet of Sikh history. He went there and his primary mission was to bring a peace between different ruling kingdoms of the area. He worked as a peace broker. So our message of unity, of love of all people, we can be using this as a tool to help the world. There's a Christian organization called, I think they're called Peacemakers. Anyone heard of them? Yeah. And they go around and they actually are involved in, they were involved in Sri Lanka, in the civil war there. They actually go out and they help in complex situations, people to get together and have discussions and try to create peace between each other. Those are things that Sikhi is made for that. We have a guru that is in and of itself so inclusive that it contains the writings of non-Sikhs, right? So we're going to end off with, and I wanted to use this image of the Jar Sahibzade, because we have this very skewed image of Sikhi. We think that great Sikhs are just somehow made like that. And there are some Sikhs who have incredible experiences. People like, for example, Baba Jarnail Singh, who from a young age had a really deep connection to Sikhi. But usually, it involves training. It involves development. Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji had to be trained by Bhai Mani Singh and how to be a warrior. Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji had to be trained to be a warrior by Baba Burda Ji. He had to learn scholarly and how to read and write and things from Bhai Gurdas Ji. So even your gurus have to be trained. So the point is that what are we doing now to develop ourselves as a plant? We talked about what the Khalsa is. The Khalsa is a guru, has a potential for amazing things. We talked about the purpose of the Khalsa. How do we get to that state as a community? Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and this is an old fort of Anandpur Sahib that they destroyed in the 1920s, Sikhs did, to make our fancy new gurdwaras. These are the 5 forts that Guru Gobind Singh Ji made. He developed these forts for 15 years. 5 months. Each one had a specific purpose. At Logan, Guruji, all the weapons were made. This is where the Sikh Sikhs would make the weapons. All the ammunition, all the swords, everything. Because the community cannot be free until it has the tools to be free, right? And Anandgarh is where they would do strategy, where they would plan out what to do. So not like Sikhs like today that just see a problem and go, let's just go and do protests, right? They would, not that protests aren't a positive thing, they can be if done properly. They would actually strategize. Guruji and the Sikhs would strategize. Guruji was training the Sikhs. After I'm gone, how are you going to be able to confront? The Sikhs were able to, under Banda Singh Bahadur, within 5 months, free half of Punjab. With a population of Sikhs that was tiny, they were able to defeat the Mughal army within 5 months. Those Sikhs who were trained directly by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. We have 30 million Sikhs in the world today, we can't save Punjab. Right? Holgad, which is where Hola Mahalla was held, is where they would do training, which is why Hola Mahalla was held there. And then Fatehgad is where they would celebrate after, where the Tadiwara and stuff would be after they had had a victory on the battlefield. And Keskar Sahib, of course, is where the decisions were made, the takat. There always has to be one takat, right? What are we missing as a community? The primary thing is a connection with our Guru. We have made Guru Granth Sahib Ji into a scary thing. We have made Guru Granth Sahib Ji into an idol. We don't go near it. Our kids don't go near it. We make it into something that you're terrified. People get nervous. Just do Jor Seva nowadays. They don't want to disrespect Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Your Guru is not so easily disrespected. Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji was not disrespected when he had his head cut off. That is not how the Guru loses respect. The Guru's respect comes from Akal Purkh Vaheguru, right? You do what the most you can do in your heart, that will always be less, right? That's what we say when we do Ardas. That everything we've done is still not enough respect for your Guruji. You do as much as you can, but you don't be afraid of having a relationship with your Guru. That's why we've been given a text as Guru, so we can have a direct relationship with it. How many of us do Bhat, do a Sage Bhat, try to understand Guruji, make the time and effort in our day? If you spend, even if you're a slow reader and you spend half an hour reading 10 angs of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, how long would it take you to finish Guru Granth Sahib Ji if you read 10 angs a day? 5 months. In a year, you could read through all of Guru Granth Sahib Ji twice. Can you imagine? That's a pretty incredible idea, isn't it? Do you have half an hour of your day to give to your Guru? If you don't want to give half an hour, how about 5 angs a day? How long would it take you then?
10 months.
10 months, right? So, are we making an effort to connect to our Guru? Directly, not through Babe, not through other people telling us what's in our Guru, but directly connecting to our Guru. Are we making that effort? Or do we have Pantik Soj? When the Pant said, we need to free our Gurdwara, Sikhs didn't say, oh, I got a job, I got my exam coming up. They said, okay, we're out, we're gone. We're going to go, Durdasa Kaltak, and we're going to say, we would be happy to die today to free our Gurdwaras. And as Sikhs would go through the villages, spontaneously Sikhs would join. Bhai Manveer Singh on his blog, and I stole it for some of my lectures, has beautifully written about Bibi Balbir Kaur. 22 years old, with a 2-month-old baby, the Sangat, the Jeta Morta, from where this picture is taken, is marching, and she says, I see these Sikhs marching by, and she joins in, and she's shaheed with her baby.
Bole so nihal.
So she didn't go there and ask those Sikhs, how long Reras do you do? Right? She didn't say, do you read Dogmal or not? She didn't say, do you eat meat or not? She said, this is a Pantak Gal, I'm here with you. Sikhs have always disagreed on things. Sikhs disagreed in Guru Gobind Singh, right after Guru Gobind Singh Ji left. The Bandai Khalsa had a fight over vegetarianism, right from the beginning of Sikhi. So there's never going to be unity on those things. No, Baba Janel Singh didn't care if people read Dogmal or not. He didn't care if people tied up their dadi or not. He didn't care what type of the star they wore. He cared, do you have Pantik Soch or not? Are you on the side of the Khalsa Panth or are you not? Are you on the side of the government? That was the question. That should be our question. So we spend our time debating little things because we're not doing anything as a community. When we do things, when we work together, then these little things don't matter anymore. Diversity is always going to be the Panth. People are going to look different. They're going to talk differently. They're going to do their bhata differently. That's not a problem as long as they're connecting to the Guru. That should be our number one thing. Do they follow the basic requirements? Do they believe in Guruji? Do they believe in the Panth? Do they follow other people who call themselves Guru? If they do, then you stay away from those people. You know, those are the basic criteria. That's what you should be looking for. We don't talk about Pantik Soch anymore. Is someone Pantik or not? We ask, what Jatha is someone from? We don't ask, is that person Pantik, right? If we, and we're going to end off now, don't worry. It's the last 2 slides. A life driven by positive function. So you don't sit around complaining about how the Panth is. You go out and you change your life first, your family, your community. That's how you make changes. Guru Gobind Singh Ji, what did he do? He created a new nation, fully armed at Anandpur. And Sikh history shows how they fought, but it was all poetic action. Even the fighting was so beautiful because it was coming from a place of love, like Purna Singh says. Professor Purna Singh. Khalsa, in their ordinary life, proves him or herself a loving spouse, a kind parent, a noble friend, a selfless saint, a brave soldier to defend the honor of the weak. That is a Khalsa. Are we loving spouses? Are we kind parents? How are we going to make the next generation of Sikhs, right? So this is where Khalsa is put in a practical thing. You need to carry yourself as if Guru Gobind Singh Ji has bowed to you. When you have taken Amrit, you have to remember that your Guru bowed before the bunch. This is almost blasphemous when we say it like that. It sounds so wrong, right? But that's what happened in 1699. So the aim of Sikh life, when we were talking about this, we want to end off with, just like I said at the beginning, the motto of Canada is Admare Aske Admare. The motto of the Khalsa Panth, this is it right here, Persian. This was what was minted on our first coins. Deg deg fateh nusrat bed rangi yaphat azranak Guru Gobind Singh. So Deg to feed people, to provide for people, Deg to fight for people, that's where we get victory. Fateh. Nasut Bedarang is Surbata Pala in Persian. Okay? So we are not doing things for ourselves. When our community does things for other people, that's when we're greatest. You know, you ask most Sikh historians what's the greatest time in Sikh history, almost universally they'll say it's when the Sikhs were living in the jungles. When we were out there fighting for other people. Those Sikhs didn't care. What did they do when they had a free day, a free moment? Bought. This is where Kantpat started. That's where it started. They didn't do a Kantpat because they got a new house, right? Or a new car. They did a Kantpat because they had a few days break between fighting the enemy. So instead of resting, relaxing, they did a Kantpat. That's incredible. How many of us? What do we do when we go to the beach? I do too. You know, relax. This is what we do when we have time off, right? Do we take time off? Actually, a lot of you are here. I shouldn't be too critical. We're here in Khalsa camp. I'm here too, away from my family kids. So look, we're not half bad, I guess, right? And remember that everything is a gift from Guru Nanak to Guru Gobind Singh, meaning the Gurus. So your Guru had something very special. Guru Nanak Sahib Ji had a direct connection with the Kalpurk Vaheguru that was fostered and carried and nurtured for 240 years. That is your legacy. It's an incredible legacy. So I want us to keep that type of mindset as we go through the week. How can we develop ourselves so that we can be the types of Sikhs that can order our Guru to leave to Gorza? Okay? Thank you for your very quiet and attentive. Yesterday I was at Gores United and I said to them, I've never had a group that listens so well. All the girls were taking notes. I'm like, without boys here, it's amazing. But I should take that back because today was pretty good too. And even with the boys here, everyone paid attention. And thank you very much because it's really difficult when people are talking when you're speaking. So I really appreciate that. And I want to apologize. My Bani pronunciation is terrible. My pronunciation in general is terrible. And I also want to apologize for mistakes I made and dates and other factual things. Remember that these are my interpretations, what I have looked at Sikh history and my thoughts. You need to develop, we all need to develop our own relationship with the Guru. And you know, if you have issues that you disagree with my interpretation, please let's talk so I can learn too. So thank you for your patience and your understanding and your commitment to being here. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa. Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.